Hello, hello. So we are back to where on the political spectrum. And I know it's been a while, but sadly my life is a bit more complicated than the average life of a 25 years old, so I had my own problems to deal with. That being said, if you remember correctly, if I remember correctly, and you also do, this is a series where I take fictional territorial entities, either being states, factions, or whatever the heck, and analyze them to determine where on the political spectrum do they lie. In the past, we have seen the Autobots from Transformers, Team Plasma from Pokemon, Mega City 1 from Judge Dredd, and also the Decepticons from Transformers. And today, we are doing Brit-CiT from Judge Dredd again. Now, since I don't expect anyone to have fidelized or even followed the previous videos, I don't recommend to check them out, mostly because they are very poorly aged like milk. So instead, I propose you this slideshow to recap what we as a public, you as a publican audience and me as the content creator realized at the end of each episode. And let's begin. As for the Autobots from Transformers, they are fundamentally Marxists. They go through a non-com phase, so anarcho-communist, and then they go back and forth between the two. They are left-wing as they either have or propose a classless society where everyone has what they need to survive equally shared and with the same rights and duties. Then there is the Team Plasma from Pokemon. They are fundamentally far-right. They are only mostly zealots who care about themselves and pretend to be pro-animal rights or anti-speciesists only when it is convenient to them and their goals. Either that or the population actually believes into their propaganda, because that it is at the end of the story. They function as a cult, and if you leave the cult, you might as well be dead to them. We also got Mega City 1, which I mispronounced Department of Justice, even though the Department of Justice is just an organ, a constitutional organ which operates within Mega City 1, from Judge Dredd, which is my favorite British comic book series. And they are a far right police state. Almost everything is illegal, and if you can't follow the law, you live outside both the law as a concept and the society as a whole, which makes you both a criminal and an outsider. That automatically give you zero rights. Judges, which are police enforcers and also policemen, jury, and hangman, decide based upon their situational opinions, case by case, how to intervene, which means that they can either reprimand you, arrest you, or kill you if the situation demands it. The citizens have no rights to contest any of this. Otherwise, you're again a criminal. Finally, last but not least, are the Decepticons, again from Transformers. They are far-right social Darwinists, or in the most egregious cases, also a military junta. They believe only in physical and psychological strength. They also believe that if you're not a machine, you are therefore inferior and deserve to be an enslaved plaything or directly die on the spot. Also, even if as a machine life form, if you have some kind of disadvantage or diversity, you deserve to be enslaved and abused by the others. And that was my some how can I call this, my synopsis of the previous episodes, but now let's watch this episode. Forgive me, and let's go on with Brit-CiT. One thing needs to be clarified before we begin: how the Judge Dredd world building works. Basically, after an event which I am not familiar with, in the sense that I don't know which event it was, mostly because I haven't gotten to that point into the story yet. Basically, there was an atomic war, and after that, so probably a third world war, and after that, all humanity was united into these mega cities, which basically are city states. And basically, each country, or at least most of the famous ones, has their own city states, and each of them have a different set of laws, of course. But what one thing that they all share is the judges implementation. The judges are not only from Megacity 1, which basically is what remains of northern United States, but they are all across the world. There are like Soviet judges, British judges, Texan judges, United African judges, Irish judges, and so on and so forth. So, there are even Vatican judges. So basically, they operate following some kind of laws, and usually, but that doesn't necessarily apply everywhere, but usually they can kill at will, and they will kill at will if the situation demands it. That being said, let's take a look to Brit-CiT, which name isn't Brit-CiT, it's actually Brit-CiT with a T, pronounced like city. But I will probably pronounce it wrong for the rest of the video, so be ready for that. In what we could describe as a clear contrast to Megacity 1, which again is where Dredd is from, Brit-CiT has basically a welfare system that allows everyone who is either mentally disabled or even a criminal to get a job, which is again very different from Megacity 1, which does the exact opposite. So right away we have a welfare system that actually works. So that's a good thing to note. Sadly, there also is class division, and it's tough because the aristocratic and the rich people still have more power and more welfare than the others. So this is it's a great no-no. The royal family still exists in a bunker turned into another city stain, yet again, called the Forbidden Citadel. But they have basically zero powers in Brit-CiT. Basically like the Savoia family in modern day Italy. They got no power, no nothing, no say, so basically they are useless. They are pretty useless, as I was saying. Uh, at the end of the day, so they have no impact on Brit-CiT, so we can move forward. Based upon what I've seen, I'd say it is still like all the Judge Dredd sovereign entities, territorial entities. It is, yes, still a police state, of course, but at the same time, I'd say they're not really that much either far left or far right. They mostly are centrist, and I say this like take this with a grain of salt, but I say this mostly because there is indeed social injustice, and there is indeed a lot of disparity in society, like in Brit-CiT society, where the poor are more poorer and the rich people are still richer, which is basically the same as in capitalism, despite that being illegal in both Megacity 1 and Brit-CiT. But the results are the same. So, however, despite not being the biggest fan or either the two, I'm going to say that, yeah, it's a centrist police state. And I know, it doesn't seem to make sense as a statement as a whole, but you got to remember that these are fiction scenarios. So as long as something doesn't count as real, it might as well sound this stupid or silly. Thank you for having watched today's analysis video, fictional political analysis video, and I'll see you next time with the next one. Bye bye!